If objectivity is impossible to achieve, what hope is there for the journalist who wants to be and be seen as professional? Journalism is an important tool in today's society in its role to keep the populace informed of issues and events through the news. The concise Oxford Dictionary describes the journalist as one whose business it is to edit or write for a journal, especially a newspaper. Catherine Dean, lecturer at Strathmore University, states, "Journalism is understood in broader terms to refer to the art of communicating, transmitting facts, events, information, opinions, and so on to the general public, using any of the wide variety of means for communication that exists in our society today." According to Maxwell, news should be new, interesting, and relevant. It should therefore have objectivity in its presentation. To be objective, as defined by the Oxford Online Dictionary, is not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in representing facts. However, since this cannot be done, as we all have our biases and perceptions, a journalist in his or her pursuit of professionalism must present a fair and balanced representation of the news.
There can be no true objective journalism because there are no truly objective human beings, journalists and editors included.
To be fair, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is to be consonant with merit and importance. This means that one must show consistency in his or her presentation of work. Former curator of the Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard, Bill Kovac, defines of fairness in journalism as more than objectivity. It includes honest and balanced judgments in reporting, writing, editing, and presentation of news. So, in order to be seen as not being overly influenced or too subjective, journalists must look to present their work as being honest, stating the facts as they happened, as well as balance, that is, showing as many sides of the story as possible.
A given story and trying his best to cover all facets of it. Turn around and say, there is this about this story. There is also this for you to consider. There is the background of this. This and this and this was said about this. This is where we are. Here's another angle about this story for you to consider. And I don't think it's necessary for him particularly to say, this is the one I believe in, and I recommend this to you. I
think you could do that indirectly, obliquely.
Oh, you could, but I think we are professional enough that very few of us do that. I believe we give the public...
To give all sides.
Oh, impossible?
Do you think,
to give all
think
sides over a period of time, not always in one broadcast because you run out of time. But I think give us 90 days, I believe, on issues current in this country. I believe over television and radio the public gets all sides. I really do.
The dearly beloved and much missed Ed Murrah used to certainly project his own views of a thing, though. Would you say that that was wrong from his point of view or not?
Well, Ed, though, bless his heart, would usually say, this is my opinion.
Journalists are human, and as such have a prism of perception, and their reporting is a sum total of all their prior experiences, socialization, beliefs, and indoctrination. We are brought up in society, and as such must learn the norms and values so that we can assimilate into this institution. Therefore, a journalist will have his or her beliefs about several subjects, and objectivity by the journalist is impeded by these ingrained qualities, and this is shown in his or her work. To be seen as professional, a journalist must state where his or her biases lie. This gives the reader a clear sense of the angle from which a journalist is reporting, and enables the reader to make a conscientious analysis of the journalistic piece. Journalists also work in a business. Therefore, they must ensure that their pieces, whether for print or broadcast journalism, must also fit the criteria for news, as well as generate income to keep the business afloat. Merrick, in citing Donald Shilson, notes, "Objectivity is a peculiar demand to make of institutions which, as businesses, are dedicated first of all to economic survival. The journalist must therefore look to ensure that even though his or her work is income generating, that it does not appear to be subjective or hold particular bias to a certain ideology. By applying the principles of fairness and balance, the journalist can present a piece which gives several views of a story, and as such appeal to a wider audience, which aids in their economic survival." Journalists can be seen as being professional in their presentation by speaking for those whose voices need to be heard. In a speech to colleagues, former curator of the Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard, Bill Kovac, states, "Fairness means that journalists should use their skills to give a voice to those who are limited in their ability to speak for themselves, whether poor or rich, powerful or weak, famous or unknown. This means that even though a journalist may have biases, he or she is able to present pieces that are able to highlight issues to their audience for those who are unable to. Examples of this are the recent victims of Tropical Depression 16 in Jamaica, or the Pope on his recent visit to the United Kingdom addressing the issues of the sex scandal and the rise of secularism in the West." Values clarification is important to ensuring that a journalist presents a fair and balanced approach. Values are defined by the Oxford Online Dictionary as a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. In clarifying his or her own values, the journalist shows where biases may lie and is able to present the reader with a clearer perspective on his or her angle. Also, in clarifying values, journalists help to review the values hierarchy. The values hierarchy establishes how society holds its values and dictates how its members carry out their daily lives. One example of this is in the Christopher Dudus Coke affair, where there were two views portrayed, where those whom he assisted versus those who saw him as a rogue criminal. This shows the different values held by different members of society.
In for the state, he provides them with money when they're out of work. He provides Christmas presents for their children. But because of that loyalty, they therefore see him as a major benefactor to their lives, and they will do anything to protect him. They call him the president. But in the United States, they say that he's an alleged drug lord. They say that he's a gun runner who is responsible. His gang is responsible for some 1,400 murders. That's where they put the extradition.
The public also looks to journalists to be informed in its decision-making. Lawrence K. Grossman, in his book, The Electronic Republic, Reshaping Democracy in the Information Age notes, the rise of utterly irresponsible, scandal-driven, sensationalist tabloid and television press is totally unacceptable, since, among other injuries, it inhibits citizens' abilities to make sound and reasoned judgments. As a result, we see public perception of events as being influenced not by the facts, but based on the influences exerted and presented by those who report the news. Nevertheless, journalists, in their quest for professionalism, must present all the facts of the report, as well as give the audience insight into what all parties involved are thinking. In this way, there is a balanced presentation which leads to a better informed audience in their decision making. We can therefore conclude that even though objectivity is impossible to achieve, journalists can still be seen as professional in their presentation by giving the audience a fair and balanced account of events. They can appeal to the audiences by stating the angles from which they are reporting, using theirs as a voice for those who are voiceless, by applying the principles of fairness and balance, and clarifying their values, which will lead to the audience making better decisions as they are better informed.